We all know that homeownership is expensive, but do we really think about all the costs leading up to buying a home? Yes, of course, there's closing costs, but what about all those other little things that you didn't think about? They can all add up. So if you stick around, I'm going to give you those details. I'll be back in 9 seconds. Hey everyone, I'm William Corbett with Port City Living at Keller Williams Realty, real estate agent serving the Greater Wilmington, North Carolina area, and I'm so glad you're here today. If you like what you hear, please consider subscribing so you don't miss a thing. I wanted to fill you in on some details about purchasing a home. We all know that closing costs are involved and they can be pretty expensive, but what about all the other things leading up to a home purchase? You might want to think about it and you might want to budget. So what are all those crazy expenses that you might not have thought about if you're thinking about purchasing a home? Well, the first one on the list to start with is travel, especially if you are buying out of state. You have to get there somehow, so you either have to drive, which costs gas, and these days that's pretty outrageous, or you have to fly, which is equally outrageous. So once you're here or wherever you're going, you have to have a place to stay. So we know that hotels these days can be pretty hefty, and Airbnbs could be the same amount as well. And then when you get here, if you're flying, you have to rent a car, and you kind of see where I'm going here. So travel is the first expense. You got to think about that first and what that's going to cost you. And traveling can be a nightmare. Once you have secured the home of your dreams, that's when all the other expenses start coming into play. You typically give an earnest money deposit or a promise to pay. That's held by an attorney. Should things not go right, typically you would get that back, but not always. So talk to your agent about that. Also, if you're purchasing in North Carolina, we have something a little bit different than other states. We have a due diligence period. That amount of money is written directly to the seller and it's theirs no matter what. Now, it's credited to you should you close, everything's fine. But if you don't close and you back out during your due diligence period because whatever reason, they keep that money. Lately, we've been seeing $5, $10, $15, $20, $25, $30, $40, $50,000 in due diligence. So be very mindful and work very close with your real estate agent on how much that money is because you don't want to lose it. That's a big expense. A couple of other things like home inspection. Everybody should get a home inspection on the property, no matter what. Even if it's a new construction, you should still get a home inspection. It's very smart to do so. But there's other inspections involved. A home inspection can cost up to $650. But if you're buying a property with a septic tank, you probably want to get it inspected too, because you don't know if it's full or not working properly. There's also pest inspections, there's a roof inspection, there's HVAC inspections, and all these things add up because everybody's going to want their fee for that inspection. So keep that in mind. Also, the lender is going to make you pay for the appraisal up front and maybe your credit report pull. I don't know, it depends on the particular lender, but you have to make sure you budget for all of those things up front. Here's another quick note about the appraisal. If you're paying cash, then you don't need a lender, so therefore there will be no appraisal fee. So you can scratch that expense off the list. These days, if you want a good rate, you got to pay points. A point is 1% of the loan amount. 2 points, 2% of the loan amount. So you might want to consider that. I'm talking to lots of lenders, and if you want a lower rate that's anything lower than 6%, you're going to have to pay for it. So budget that in there as well. Let's see, where are we now? Yeah, so far we've racked it up. So more fees, attorney's fees. You got to think about what it's going to cost for your attorney to close your deal. All the mortgage fees, of course, like we talked about, and what goes into that. Utilities, if you have to turn on electricity or water, sometimes these companies may require some type of deposit. You may have to pay or will pay prorated taxes for the year. That's part of your closing cost. Home warranty, let's think about that. Home warranty is something that we try to negotiate during the negotiating of the purchase of your home. Typically, we try to get the seller to pay for it, but if we can't, that may be something that you want to purchase, especially if the home is a little older and some things are at the end of their life. For example, HVAC system, or let's say the refrigerator is older. A home warranty is not that expensive, maybe $500 to $600 per year, but it's a good insurance to have. And if you can't get the seller to pay for it, that may be something that you need to do. So you can add that to the list. Moving cost. If you're moving, I don't know, cross country or cross state or even across town, moving expenses are not cheap these days. We're talking probably several $1,000s for a good sized household. Repairs. Let's think about that for a second. If you are buying a house and you and your real estate agent couldn't negotiate repairs to be made by the seller, that's something that you're going to have to consider doing after you close. If you've got some leaks or you've got some roof issues, you're going to want to take care of those immediately. So how much is that going to cost? So we can see here that buying a home is not cheap. You have to be prepared. You have to budget yourself. I would say roughly 10% of the sale price is what you should consider having in the bank for your purchase price that you're thinking about, just to have for all of these things to cover them. Because you don't want to be, especially the repairs, you don't want to get into a home and have all these problems and you don't fix them and then things just get worse and worse and worse. That is not a good situation to be in. So to recap, it's not just closing cost or down payment or earnest money that you have to think about when you're purchasing a home. It's all the other little things. And I have compiled a list for you that you can have if you request it. There is a link at the bottom down below. If you just send me your information, I will send you that list and you can have it and keep it with you. That way you don't forget anything. Because we can see that the typical stuff we know about, but it's all the other things that we don't think about. In the grand scheme of things, that's really going to cost you a lot of money, especially for those of you who are moving from state to state. It gets a little bit more expensive. If you're moving within town, yeah, it might not be too bad, but there's still a lot of stuff that you're going to have to pay for. So if you have any questions about what it takes and what it costs to buy a home, please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to communicate with you on this. And again, request your free what it costs to purchase a home guide, so you'll have it with you and you can always refer to it. Hey, I'm certainly not here to scare you away from purchasing a home, and I don't want you to be overwhelmed by all this information, because I just want you to be aware, and I want to be honest with you that purchasing a home is expensive. So make sure that you've budgeted and you've saved so that you're not strapped at the end. And when you're all said and done and you have this wonderful home, that you're not just sitting on lawn chairs looking at a blank wall because you can't afford to do anything else. I certainly hope you found this information valuable. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and share this with your friends and family. I would greatly appreciate it. I'm William Corbett with Port City Living at Keller Williams Realty, serving the greater Wilmington, North Carolina area. I love it here so much. You love where you live and live where you love. And as always, if someone does not have a smile, then please give them yours.